name's Robert Dean Steele, and this is your daily Bible class. Well, we're going to get into a little controversy today because Paul had to address a major problem. And he says this in verse number 9 of, this is chapter 2, by the way, verse number 9, teach slaves to be subject to their masters in everything, to try to please them and not to talk back to them. So basically, in Paul's day, there was a thing called slavery. I mean, 3/4 of all the Christians who came to know the Lord during Paul's day were actually slaves. And the reason why that they wanted to come to Christ is because their own situation of hardship and labor and no rights or privileges was very strong. And so here Paul comes along, Titus, and they bring a message of freedom. They say, maybe you're not free from your masters, but understand the master that we bring to you is a master who will set you free and will give you eternal and abundant life. He will give you a hope for a future. You may be a slave now, but in the new millennium, when the time comes where all things are gathered together, you are going to be a king, a priest, you're going to be a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. That was very, very attractive. So he says, here's some practical advice. He says, first of all, be subject to your masters in everything. Try to please them and not talk back to them. You see, there was a tendency, and when you're oppressed, when you are being put down, your first reaction is to bite back. Your first reaction is to talk back to those who are oppressing you. But often that makes it worse. He said basically this. He says, when you're working for somebody, and this happens to be not only for that day, but for this day. Employee-employer relationships. When you're working for somebody, no matter what the job is, you do the best job you can and keep a proper attitude while you're doing it. Then he goes on to say, and don't steal from them, but show them that you can be fully trusted. Obviously, some thievery was going on back in the day. And Paul was hearing about it, and he's encouraging the slaves and employees, if we can use that today, employees, don't steal from your employer. Don't cut off time, don't claim time that you haven't earned, and don't take things from the workplace just because they're a big corporation or they won't miss it. Folks, we are called to be honest and full of integrity in every situation. We need to be the best employees and the most trusted employees that we have. He says, so that in every way they will make the teaching about God our Savior attractive. Again, it comes down to a very simple fact. We are the only Bibles that people are going to read. Paul would say the same thing in 2 Corinthians chapter 1 when he said, you are the only letters that many people are going to read. And what are the words that are coming off your page? What are they reading in your paragraphs? What kind of grammar are you presenting? Are you presenting an individual who can't be trusted, who will cut corners, who will be dishonest, or are you an individual that can be trusted? You're the individual who only gives the right time. You're the one who stays late if necessary. You're the one who does the extra mile. When you do that, you make the gospel of Jesus Christ very attractive. I remember the story of this one particular employer that was looking at this young man who said he was a Christian. And the employer actually made life a little bit miserable for that young Christian. But that young Christian had a great attitude, had a great thought about how he was going to serve, and he served well. And eventually, that employer became a Christian. He came to him and said, you really got something there. I want what you have. Folks, that's how attractive we should be in a relationship with God. Think about that today. My name is Robert Dean Steele. This is your daily Bible class. You have yourself a great and godly day.